Is it all turned on?
You are connected in HD audio. Please record your name after the tone and press the pound key. The conference is in presentation mode. There are 3 parties in the conference. Conference will begin when you confirm by pressing *3. You have confirmed the start of the conference. All participants will now be placed into the conference. This call is being recorded.
Gotcha. We'll call the meeting, oh, it just changed. We'll call the meeting to order at 1:02 p.m. And we have some additions to the agenda. Anyone saying those?
Yeah, there are 2 additions shown in red font on your agenda, and we also have 2 other proposals to add to the agenda. 8.3, DP 20017, west of 314217, west of the 4th. Rich will do a verbal presentation for that application. And 9.1, Big Valley Municipal Development Plan referral. 9.2, AEP, Alberta Environment and Parks draft mooring disturbance standard policy. And you have received the addition package. You could sync it, or it's been attached to an email.
We just got started with additions. So on your table you will. It's not fit.
I got it.
So less on your table you'll see the additions in red, and then we added 8.3, DP 20017, Northwest 314217, and under old business 9.1, Big Valley MDP, and 9.2, AEPD or AEP draft mooring disturbance package.
Last one, please.
9.2 AEP, the draft mooring disturbance package. Any other additions? Okay, we need approval for the agenda. Mr. Clerk, all in favor? It's carried. Now on to our minutes for April 29th. Over. Everyone ready? All in favor? It's carried. Okay, now we'll move on to reports. 5.1.
For our development permits, we are lagging behind last year. At this time last year, we had 54 applications, and we have 21 when I did this package. So there's been a couple more since then, but we are behind last year. And for subdivisions, we are on par with last year, 9 last year and 9 this year as well. And further to that, well, there's things coming up in the agenda, but we can just talk about the Buffalo Lake IDP amendments. We are working to bring a draft document in June to the committee. As well, Buffalo Lake South Shore IDP dispute resolution, we're at stage 4, so we're looking direction to move forward on that. summarizes the report.
Questions arising from the report? Seeing none, we need a approval. Mr. Stuhlberg?
I will move the development officer's report be accepted.
Okay, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, so we'll move on to development permits. DP 20014. So that's Sun Alta Fertilizer 6.1. That's on page 12 of your regular package. So who's taking?
The applicant was on.
Is he on the phone? Okay.
You had.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just for the people that are at home, they may want to know who's all here. Introductions so that they know who's talking.
Okay. We'll start at the back with Rich, and we'll go around.
Rich Fitzgerald, GIS Coordinator.
Cynthia Donovan, Director of Planning Services.
Under, board member.
Ray Neitz, Chair.
Dave Grover, board member. Ray Nixon, board member.
Stuhlberg, board member.
James Nyberg, board member.
Orstenson, Director of Communications.
Andrew Pershik, Director of Municipal Services. Larry Clark, board member.
Just a question. So if they have any questions for us, do they star 5 and it'll let you know?
If there is an interjection for anyone on the line that's necessary, you can press star 5 and it will indicate to us that you've raised your hand, at which point you'll still be muted, but the chair will be able to call on you. Alternatively, typically what we would do is as we go through your development permit, the development officer will give their report, and then the chair will likely give you the opportunity to add any further clarification before the board discusses.
Madam Chair, who do we have on the phone?
We have 4 members of the public on the phone, each representing development permits. We have representatives from development permit 20014, Dale Anderson. We have development permit 20019 and John Adelman. Development permit, I believe it is 2020. We have Michael Lobsinger and Darcy Kraft. Which development permit was that again? Is it the same?
On the same.
Same one. Yeah. Okay. So 20. Yeah, the 20-020 that has 2 representatives for that development permit. So if we follow in order here, we can get each of our public dealt with first.
That's good. Okay, so we'll turn it back over to our development officer. It's done.
So this application for an egg supply depot was reviewed by our Municipal Planning Commission at the April 29th meeting and was tabled pending additional information. So, and one of the issues was the 75% road ban on Range Road 21-2. So I'll just read the section in red that was added to this report. So Mr. Anderson indicated at the April 29th MPC meeting that the 75% road ban restriction on Range Road 21-2 negatively impacts his farming and business operation. It was noted that in the past, the owners of Old McDonald's Resort had contributed towards the hard surfacing of Range Road 21-2 to mitigate dust concerns. The hard surfacing would require substantial repairs to restore the dust abatement product. County administration met with the owners of Old McDonald's to discuss the current conditions of the road and possibility of removing the hard surfacing and converting Range Road 21-2 back to a gravel surface. The resort owners indicated that they would not object to the removal of the hard surfacing from Highway 601 north to the approach into northwest of 114021 west of the 4th. However, they expressed safety concerns with dust issues caused from truck and recreational vehicle traffic. Consequently, the resort owners recommended alternative dust mitigation measures should be considered to address potential safety issues on Range Road 21-2. Mr. Anderson has indicated that he is awaiting a product analysis report for the cement kiln dust proposed to be processed on the subject property. And we had received that report this morning. It wasn't a report that he had requested. However, it does address some of the concerns with the product. And I sent it to you by email, and it's also in our additions package, that information.
Was that the whole report or partial, did you say?
It's the report that Mr. Anderson had requested from Lafarge was not available, but he provided some information on the crystalline silica, and Mr. Anderson could speak to those MSDS sheets that he provided.
Mr. Anderson, do you have some comments on those sheets that you provided to us?
Good day, everybody. Been kind of going around in a rat race here with this thing. Lafarge had promised us that they would get a CFIA and a different data sheet, but of course they did nothing. I got looking into it on my own, and what we found is that the number one carcinogen that we're dealing with is crystalline silica. So when you Google crystalline silica, I copied and pasted that, put it on that email back to Cynthia, and it's comprised basically that 12% of the Earth's crust is made up of that type of silica. It's the largest nutrient basically that there is in the Earth's crust is silica, but crystalline silica is only one of three that are the main silica problems. Any rock, any product that has crystalline silica is classified as a 1A carcinogenic. So when you go through the list of everything, 96 or 98% of all the rocks on the planet contain this silica. So sand, gravel, everything contain that, and they're all carcinogenic. So when we looked at our sand and gravel MSDS, what we find is 1A carcinogenic, can cause cancer, et cetera, et cetera. The CKD is the same stuff, gypsum's the same stuff. Any soil-borne product is basically got this crystalline silica in it. So we went back to discovering what the CFIA had to say about what they had to say about liming products. Basically, any product that has got the macros like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium are exempt from registration with the CFIA. So Lafarge has basically been blowing smoke at me here, telling me that they were going to get this CFIA cert, because from what I can tell with the CFIA, lime is basically exempt from having a certificate of any sort. So any product or any byproduct or waste byproduct that corrects soil pH is exempt from CFIA regulations. So Lafarge has been kind of let me down. It's interesting to notice that in this little venture of looking at the crystalline silica, there's basically nothing on this planet that doesn't have it. The trick is one, controlling it, two, putting it where it needs to be put and mitigate the dust problems. So I think we're on to that now. It's pretty hard to Google and find all this information when you're seeding, but I managed to put it together. Any questions?
Have questions?
Madam Chair, Dale, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, it's James Nyberg here. Are you expecting to get that information from Lafarge? Is this something that we are expected to get, or is this something that is you just are giving up on?
I've given up on it. So when I started digging around in this thing, that's why I provided the MSDS from Greymont, Lehigh, there are basically two other companies in the business, and every one of them says the same thing. Crystalline silica is the number one carcinogen, and it can cause cancer, and it is a carcinogen. So Lafarge isn't going to come out and tell you any different. The fact that they actually put it on sand and gravel, that it's a carcinogen, Lafarge and Lehigh basically the same thing, tells me that it's an automatic. As soon as crystalline silica shows up, it's going to get labeled as a carcinogen. However, when you look at the Greymont, they make a hydrated lime. Their quarry's right across the street from Lafarge. It's pulling out of the same mountain. If you look on theirs, they're stipulating that hydrated lime is not a carcinogen. So I don't understand this thing. It's confusing, but just being a simple person and looking at the common denominator, anything and everything that carries crystalline silica is a carcinogen, period. Doesn't matter how many dollars you spend on reports or anything. That is the number one thing that twigs everybody's attention, and they stamp it as a 1A carcinogenic product. So if I send a sample of sand or gravel into the have analyzed, they'd come back reading the same thing. Any other questions?
Any other questions or comments? The extra information is in our edition package. That was on page 3.
Huge learning curve for all these products and trying to understand where they're coming from on all these things, because how can you have Greymont running around? They're throwing a calcium carbonate product out there, a superfine, they call it SuperCal. So they did an experiment up here with the Canola Council on a club route trial up by Vimy on Highway 16. They went in there and they tried to lime this with this SuperCal calcium product. They actually shut the highway down. They dusted it out. Nobody could see anything. The traffic was all stopped. It was that bad. But yet, if you look at all the applications from Greymont, it's perfectly safe. The problem is that the calcium carbonate lime doesn't hold water the same as what the hydrated lime does. And when they tried to spread it, it was just a total disaster. They spread my CKD right beside it, and it went through just like it was supposed to. So the reality is that the different types of lime that you apply, one is there's got to be some smarts about it. If you see it taken off in the atmosphere for 5 years, it's for 5 miles, it's obviously not a product that you should be spreading. The second is if it's a real windy day like today, you shouldn't be spreading it. So, there's got to be some common sense going with everything.
Mr. Clark?
Gail, just a question, like you referred to yours as hydrated lime again. We asked last year for you to have Lafarge basically tell us, they still haven't come back to call it hydrated lime, have they?
I'm not sure which guy you talked to out there. I tried to get Kevin Koloski to get on the conference line today, but he's not willing to do that. As I mentioned last year, the process to make hydrated lime is called slaking. So whenever you take the calcium oxide out of the kiln and you mix it with water, that's called slaking. You change the property of the calcium oxide over to a calcium hydroxide, which is hydrated lime. Lafarge does not sell any hydrated lime, so whoever you talk to only knows Smith. The hydrated lime that they have sitting out there in that stockpile is hydrated lime, like it's slaked calcium oxide.
Well, that was just my understanding. You'd brought some people, I believe there were some people come into our meeting where we had some paperwork come in and things were referred to as hydrated lime, but it didn't really follow us back through to the point where it said it was hydrated lime. So, just a question.
I couldn't quite hear that.
I said last year we had paperwork, I believe it was come in, and when we were first working through this, and it was being referred to in one sense as hydrated lime, but the paperwork wasn't tying it back to hydrated lime, so I just wanted to clear that up with Dale.
Yeah, well, when you look at the calcium oxide, this is the stuff right off the kilns, and this is what they buy they use that to react with the beets down in the Tabor sugar refinery. So it's a reactive product. Whenever it's mixed with water, it goes through an endothermic reaction, and they use it in different things in the industry. But once it's slaked with water, it turns into a different beast. So in the 1930s, they had all kinds of kilns spread out all throughout the U.S., and that's what they were doing, was taking and burning calcium oxide or calcium carbonate and making a calcium oxide. When they run it through the kiln at 1400 degrees, it burns one of the oxygens off. So instead of a CaCO3, it's now a CaCO2, turning it to an oxide, 2 oxygens. So what they did is they called it slaking, and if you look up on Google how to slake it, they would take this product out of the kiln and mix it with water, and then it would break down into micronized particle sizes, and that's primarily what we have here. The problem is that when they do that, it kind of goes back into like a plaster form. So that stockpile mountain that they have out there is just like a great big huge mound of plaster. My problem is you got to dig that out with a pretty hefty loader, and then we've got to crush it and break it down and get it back into that fine state. The fineness of grind that you have being applied to the soil makes it more reactive to the wave colloids in the soil, releasing the hydrogen, changing your pH. So fineness of grind or sieve analysis of a lime product is very critical in moving pHs, and that's why I went after this CKD, because it had all the properties and it had the fineness of grind. It's got some moisture to it so it doesn't blow away. So Lafarge, as far as they're concerned, that's not even on their radar. They don't even know about it. So you could ask 20 people at the plant about the CKD and they wouldn't have a clue. So Kevin Kolaski, I think he was up here last year with Kelly from Magnum, talking to you about putting CKD on this road for stabilizing the road. So he's kind of my go-to guy, and if you can't get him to do nothing, there's nobody else in that organization that even returns calls. Tail wagging the dog is all it is. So
Okay, so sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so we asked last month to bring it forward to this month with more information, and now we have that information. Did you have something to add?
One of the things we need to discuss as well is the range road. Now, the McDonald's have agreed to remove the hard surfacing, and that would turn it back to gravel and remove that 75% ban. But they do have concerns with the dust because the traffic on that road in the peak months. So just something we need to discuss with Dale, if there's some type of hard surfacing that could be applied to mitigate that concern.
What was that discussion was had about what we could do after that. So we'll turn it over to CAO Cassidy.
So anyway, we met with McDonald's, and they were agreeable to rip up the road from Anderson's north approach on. The rest of that, the north part of that road is in pretty good shape. I think we can save it for a couple more years, but the south side is really bad. So last year, when it really started to get bad on us in a couple spots, we actually we ripped it up and we put some D10 light oil on it, and it worked pretty good. It's it's just like it's spring and it's pretty rough right now, but we could rip it up again, apply some more oil, and restore it. They were open to that, but the problem with that is the cost. So I had Rick look at putting together some costs on what it would cost us to do that, just over a mile, and we're looking at probably close to $27,000. We have to put some more gravel on it. We'd have to haul that gravel in. We could kind of run it through the gravel program, some of the spot graveling, but that takes away from the rest of the county. But about $3,500 we could pull out of that part of the budget. We have $15,000 that we think we could save in the current budget right now with the cutbacks for hot mix. We wouldn't have to repair it with a hot mix, and maybe pull $5,000 out of Buffalo Lake maintenance, which means we have zero available for any problem that would pop up at Buffalo Lake. And that wouldn't get us to the total cost. So I don't know if the county, number one, should be responsible for paying for this dust control, or number two, if we could work out some kind of cost sharing agreement, perhaps with the developer. Or I'm just looking for council direction on how you want to handle it, but that was the information that we had. McDonald's are very concerned, and I think we would be concerned also that prior to the road being hard surface, dust was an issue. And especially when you have holiday trailers and trucks pulling out, could be a recipe for disaster, and I'd like to avoid that if possible.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Nyberg.
So through to administration, basically, what do we have to do here to get the 75% ban lifted on this? Come to the mic, please. Sorry.
I think we'd have to, rip the road up, put more gravel on it, and either leave it at a gravel surface or put the light oil on it, which gives it the dust control and keeps it compacted a little bit better.
Is this something that council's willing to entertain? Do we know, or what are their thoughts?
That's why we're bringing it forward today.
And I know when I say that with a little bit of jest that council is MPC in the same thought, and I'm just wondering, is that something that when we put our other hats on, is that something that we're willing to entertain? I mean, this is our crutch, people. Right now, where we're holding this is whether we have an actual certificate of whether this stuff is an MSD sheet or not. It's not really as big a deal for us as the guys that are going to be working there and handling it. For us, if it doesn't leave his property, that to me is not a big deal. My crutch on this is, what are we doing with the road? He's not going to be able to do this business with having a 75% road ban. He can't actually even do his farming with a 70% road ban. We've got holiday trailers running up and down there that I will dare say are well overloaded. They are above their pay grade as far as the weight that they're carrying on skinny little tires. And they have done what the multitude of damage over time and time again. We talk about, Rick tells us 5 trips a day. Well, are we going to hold a campground to having 5 trips a day? That's going to really suck on the long weekend when you're trying to get 300 trailers in there. We can sit here and navel gaze all day long, but I really don't want to be here till 6 o'clock tonight. So,
Mr. Nixon.
I think we've already decided that we want to turn that road back into a gravel road, because we definitely it needs work. It's going to be too expensive to restore it to the way it was to a hard surface road. So the practical thing, I think, we've already talked about this to some extent, is to gravel the road. Now that's coming from my counselor's hat. So I definitely agree with Mr. Nyberg. I think we need to move forward on this, and I wish we'd have thought about putting this on this morning's agenda. But
Isn't
if we could move forward at a quicker.
I think the biggest question is we need to put some kind of dust suppressant on there. And is council willing to pay for the oiling, or do we do something else? Because I think we're already in agreement with turning it into gravel, but it's the cost of the dust suppressant to put it on there. So
I agree. I think it's all part of the package. I think we need to, if we need, we have to make it to a passable road that's more than 75%, and probably need to put some dust control on parts of the road. That's just my feeling as a counselor.
Mr.
And a development permit. I'd like to move that we move forward with this development permit, subject to something to an agreement that we, I guess agreement by council that we move forward with the road, and also the development permit subject to the conditions listed.
Mr. Gender.
Just wondering, like, what have been the costs over, say, like the last 5 years per year that we've had to maintain on that road?
Probably between, I'm guessing, probably between $10,000 and $20,000 of hot mix trying to patch the road. The biggest issue has been coming off at 601, where it potholes really badly, and so we've had to, a truckload of hot mix from Red Deer runs us, that $5,000 mark, and by the time we get it laid. Of course, we could enter into a road use agreement, which would be a stipulation or a condition of the permit, and at that time, Mr. Anderson would be responsible to control the dust. We don't stipulate, unless the recommendation comes from council or MPC, what that dust control looks like. I guess that's one of the things that you could also consider. Would he be responsible for watering every time he had trucks coming in? Or would he be responsible for maybe dust proofing 1/6 of a mile in front? There's two entrances, two approaches to residential dwellings along that road. Would he be responsible for dust control along that? I mean, it's basically up to you guys what you want to do.
Mr. Clark.
Yeah, well, when Yvette first give that explanation of what the cost would be, you start talking that for improvements for Buffalo Lake, you take that money out of the budget. We have nothing else to work in any area, which we do have a lot of other pieces of roadways up there. It's not a lot of money that she was taking out, but she's trying to balance what we're doing here. But as we sat and went through our budget today, we have to be very conscious of, like, we did talk about oiling. We did talk about what we were going to do with oiling. Go forward, it was going to be a user pay system. And then to sit here now and say that, for dust abatement, that it's coming back towards the county, I think we really need to think about this and talk about it. Because it's against what we talked about with our budget this morning.
Mr. Nyberg, did you have your hand up?
I'd just like to see what one person's opinion, Madam Chair, right now from their counselor hat about whether we're moving that road to 75%. Not to say that it doesn't weigh heavily, but I'm not sure he is all of council. I'm with you that it should be turned back so that this road is a usable road and that we take the ban off. That takes us to putting it back to gravel. So you've got two opinions. You may want to find out what everybody else is.
Mr. Clark.
I'm not in disagreement to that, taking the 75% ban off. I'm just worried about the other costs that are implicated back towards the county if we do that, and we have to make sure we have a clear understanding of where we're at. Go forward with this.
Mr. Gender.
In the past, we've averaged out probably about 15,000 per year. We have in the budget this year for possible repairs.
I think the total hot mix that we had in the budget, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm thinking it was about 25,000. Of course, we're turning the roadway at the landfill, which is being totally paid for by Stettler Waste. We are turning it back into a gravel surface with the D10 light oil on it for dust control. This road was one that we used to patch. If we turn it back to gravel, we won't be. And we have already patched 19.5, the one by the beekeepers to the range road. I think that's the only one hard surface roads at this time that we're looking at patching. The airport road seems to hold up pretty good and doesn't require a lot of patching.
Mr. Green has mentioned in the past that it would not really need much rock in order to incorporate into that road. So I guess I would kind of question that. I believe that there would be parts that would require, say, like some better rock into it, which would not be very much of a cost. I don't believe it would be. So like, I believe that we should be making a good base out of it and turn it back to gravel, yes. But that'll be for council's decision.
Recommended an application of about $3,500 for gravel, which includes the haul. Probably looking at bringing the stuff out of the bridges pit because it's got no screenings in it. That's stuff we did last year because we've been having great success with it. That's a pretty big haul to that area, but that's probably where that gravel would come from.
Stillberg, do you have any comments on this program?
I'm in agreement that that section of road there should be changed so that it doesn't have a 75% ban on it to impede business and farming. And once the county does get some gravel in there and get it in shape, maybe some key areas where the trucks are turning and stuff might need some light oil, but I think maybe a partnership could be struck to address it so all parties would contribute.
Can I interject here?
Well, I still like to, no, I don't think you can haul anything in Alberta that you don't have to have a ticket that tells you what's in it and what it is. It's high rate of lime, it's this, it's that, it's whatever. I'd like to know from this Kelly guy what it is. The dust control, who pays? I was told in my area where, what is it, all the gravel pits and most of the oil and gas and that, and they're going to haul the rocks out of there to fix it. That when we're hauling by people where there's could be 20 trucks a day, but we're not going to pay for their dust control for them. Not going to put oil in front of their places. So, and they're going to have to, if they're going to, they probably have to either, whoever's hauling has to water it, being whatever business it is, whether they're hauling hydrated lime or whether they're hauling grain or whether they're hauling gravel. But all those gravel pits down there, they're all going to have to pay pay to get a water truck every time they go to haul loads out of there. And we used to redo, when we had money in this county, we used to redo oil or put dust control down for them, and there'll be no more of that. So I just wondering who's going to pay for this.
You have the option of putting in light oil or running a water truck. That's the option. They just have to do dust suppression. Right?
Never dust control either. It's dust abatement, but it's dust abatement. It's dust control. It's whatever. But at the end of the day, just give us some more we have to look after. I just as soon see it go. Yeah, maybe take what if you took so you could get to his business, take the 75% off. And if you left the 75% on the north part of that road, that would let this here businessman go do his business. But it also would keep the heavy trucks off the north part, and it might last another year or two, maybe.
Quarter mile, I think.
I know what it is, but you go put in real pavement is what, $1 million a mile? That's $250,000. It's only.
That's not real pavement, though.
Know that. But maybe that's what they'll have to eventually put up there. We had to put that on that 7 miles down there at 10, and that's $1 million a mile, and that's a while ago. Probably more than that now. So just things to think about. I'd like to see who's going to pay for the dust control. And if we're going to go up there and haul gravel from down there at Big Valley. By the time you get it there, it has a pretty good cost to it. I'm not against people doing business in the county of Stettler, but I think everybody's not going to be happy with this dust control this summer when we don't do any. So just something to think about. And I have no problem taking that off so that this Mr. Anderson can run his business. No problem with that at all. But we're going to have to do some with the road. And we'll decide probably as a council what we do. Thank you.
Excellent.
I had a couple of questions to ask Dale. Dale, I know you said this before, but about how many trucks a day would you expect? Hauling the raw product in, and I suppose that would be basically in the wintertime, would it? And then the second question was, would you be prepared to enter into a cost-sharing agreement for dust abatement? Use agreement.
Well, I guess my predicament right now is that as the world economics have changed, we've changed the situation in my business drastically here in the last few months. We can't get any farmers to even consider putting lime down. Lime costs about $200 an acre, and right now crop prices are basically break even, so it's tough to sell anything. I've got no money talking or even thinking of putting lime on this year, which is kind of a downfall. I don't expect to haul any loads this summer at all. In fact, I'll be lucky if I haul any this fall, because I've got enough sitting in store right here right now that we can handle some. For example, Doug Stewart wanted to do a quarter down there. I drove down, looked at his quarter, and I damn near got my truck stuck in the middle of his road, for God's sakes. 4,500 kg road, I can't even take my truck and trailer empty down that road. So there's an example there of somebody that wants it, but it's just not a feasible thing. It'll have to happen in the wintertime. Second thing is, we're in the process of marketing the CKD up around Edmonton, trying to cure some of the club root. So we're looking at leasing a siding up there and trying to get a stockpile up there and do more work on the club root scenario, because this hydrated lime is the only thing that will cure it. So that's going to take some of the pressure off of down here as well. So back to your question, how many loads do you think I would move? Ballpark number, 3 or 4 a month.
Yeah, I don't, well, there's a road, this is gonna go though, this development with the permit and everything, we'll have a road use agreement with it that the county will draw up, right? Yvette? Every business does have one of those, so that should look after how many trips, and we have laws, how many goes and all the rest of it. Thank you.
Question over to Ms. Donovan. Now, with this permit, would you not have to put in there whether they needed to do some dust control or put on some kind of oil, or is this not the place where you would put that in there?
Yes, it is. I mean, they will require to have a road use agreement if they exceed the maximum loads per day. But if the truck loads per day is less than what is required to enter into a road use agreement, then there is no other conditions that would apply. Those you're required to apply a dust abatement product.
Those conditions, if we so chose, would have to come into this permit then, if we want to do any kind of oiling. We do have a motion on the floor, Mr. Nixon, right? Now, did you want it as is? Did you want to amend it, or?
Well,
Can I interject here just for a second?
Yes, Mr. Anderson.
What does Gene and Kevin, do they have a business development permit for their campground?
They have a development permit for the campground, yes. I mean, many
Do
years
they have a
ago.
road use agreement?
No.
Why?
Ages ago, prior to the county requiring a road use agreement.
And they also contributed quite a bit to the hard surfacing, or whatever you want to call it,
Right. I looked up the costs on the road. When we did the road with the chip seal and the cement, it was close to $450,000. Old McDonald's put in half of that. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I understand that. What I'm saying though is
You'll do that?
I'm looking at a road here that every Friday night is just absolute highway. Like there's a car every 200 yards coming down there. Sometimes you can't get out of your own approach. And they're all coming from the city. So we've got all these city dwellers coming up here. And on a long weekend last year, we ran, I think she said 5,000 people across her gate to get into that campsite. We're probably not going to see that this year with this COVID thing, but the reality is we're building a road for foreigners to use. Jean has a toll gate sitting there that she charges everybody $3 a person to walk through that gate. Why don't you get her to tack another couple dollars on that toll bridge? Why don't these, weekend warriors, why don't they pay for the dust control if they're the ones that really want to use it? If we had normal traffic, we wouldn't have a dust problem. But when you turn 5,000 people roaring up this road every weekend, that's a problem.
like your way of thinking, Dale.
Well, I'm just a dumb farmer. I'm just looking at options here, but you can't rely on farmers to look after dust control in front of their places and keep up to a herd of people that hit this road. Like 5,000 vehicles in a weekend is absolutely absurd. It's like chasing everybody out of Stettler up there Friday and Saturday and then chase them all back home. Like it is just a gong show. So why does the county sit here and look at businesses to pay for everything when it's actually the weekend warrior that's jumping out here and using our system and running back home and complaining about the dust and the potholes and everything else? Put the toll bridge up. Does that make sense?
You may have a problem convincing the operator of that establishment to go ahead and do that. We may not. It may be something that is feasible. It makes sense to me, absolutely.
I don't think Kevin's hard to deal with. And
no.
If you said, look, you're collecting $3 a vehicle now, collect $4, give the county $1 and let them put oil on in front of my place and in front of the house next door, and as we get more money, we'll oil more. Does that work? I don't think Kevin's hard to deal with.
It's Donovan.
We drove the road yesterday. I was just wondering if it's, rather than applying more oil, if we could repair it to some point where it's still mitigating dust. I don't think it's totally, I know you said the north portion, and I agree it is in better condition, but is it really necessary to clean it up? Because then we're going back to the
But if we repair it, the 75% ban remains. So that defeats the purpose of what we're talking about right now. Yes.
Well, can I interject again? I don't know how to raise my hand here on this phone, but
that's fine.
You're live, so we haven't muted you.
Oh, okay. Boy, don't give my wife that option. She'd have me muted anyway. So the situation is with this road is that the way it is now, you won't fix this road with hot mixes or cold mixes or whatever for less than $50,000. the second thing is, by the end of this tourist season, you're gonna have potholes just like you got now. Because the substructure of that road is deteriorated. It's got moisture underneath it or something's happened. I'm not a road builder or an expert in that. It's all I know is, from what I'm seeing, there's definitely structural problems with this road. So, in the past, you know, in the spring or wet conditions, we would load up our grain cart and haul it down to the end of the road and load a Super B. I can't even do that this year because the shoulders are all crushing out of it. If I took a Super B down to that corner and tried to load it this year, it would have sunk out of sight. So, my way of thinking is we did a test strip with your light oil patch where Rick went in there and tore that asphalt up and then he relayed it and oiled it. That road is hard. I mean, that was a test strip. Okay, so that's our grade 6 experimental package right there. Did that road hold up? Definitely. Is it repelling water? Has it got potholes in it? No water holding and there's no potholes in it. The surface that he left it at is maybe not the smoothest, but it is intact and it is hard. And I don't think he put any gravel to speak of on that. I think he just used the gravel that was in the road. So that's your experimental thing to see what that road would look like. So if you say it costs $27,000 to light oil that thing for a mile and a half, my way of thinking is that's still cheaper than spending $25,000 to $50,000 on cold patch, and still have the same thing next year.
Okay. So we have Mr. Clark next.
Dale, you know, you'd go back, we went back to old McDonald's, but I see on your permit, you've got owner Dale, George, and Beverly Ann Anderson, but the applicant Sonelta Fertilizer Limited. I know it's an agriculture company, but it is still a company. So I think if we're going to suggest to one business owner on there that participate, maybe we need to have participation from more than one business owner. And not saying you're toll or not saying that the more users participate more, but on the same sense, it is for two businesses. It's not for Dale Anderson Farm that we're working through this whole permit. Maybe we're talking about the road as part of this permit, which pertains to your farm. But I mean, it is to this permit right here. So that's just, as I sit here and look at it, I think we are talking about two businesses.
So we
are two businesses, but I'm all in one. Dale Anderson owns Sonelta. The farming operation is going to handle 20 times more trucks down this road than the CKD business is going to.
So we have a motion on the floor, and MPC needs to decide what to do with that motion, and to leave conditions as they are, or to add any. So I think that's where we are right now. So
one counselor that needs to give us their opinion, because I think we're at a heat here.
Me to give my opinion. I look at this as also another business too, and there are two businesses going up and down this road, and so I think we need to handle that as two businesses. We are willing to rip up the road as it is for this new business coming in, so that we can lift the ban. So we are trying to help out there, but we need to also look at dust abatement, because we get the amount of vehicles going up and down that road, especially on the weekends. It's going to get really dusty, and if you're pulling out on that road with that dust, then it becomes a safety issue. So I think we need to look at some kind of cost sharing to help put on some kind of oil on there, because we already are willing to rip it up to lift the ban, which was a request for us to do, and we are doing that. So
that hasn't come to council yet, so that's why I just wanted to know. We've talked about it, but I don't think we'd actually made a decision at council to rip that road up yet, so that's why I needed to know that. Thank you.
I think we should rip the road up, but like I stated before, I think everybody should chip in on that dust control. Centera fertilizer or Sonelta fertilizer should kick in, maybe not as much as the old McDonald's campground, but they should kick in something to keep the dust down on it, and away we go. pull the ban off it up to past their place and leave the ban on the rest. Thank you.
Mr. Gender.
I guess I am of the opinion like to go ahead with this in here, but I do believe that the county or the council is going to have to decide on whether we rip up the road or not. Dale, so I'm just kind of wondering, okay, if it's going to be a cost shared, I would be willing just to throw, say, like a number out there. It's going to be a cost share of three-way split on this for the dust abatement on it.
Who's the third, Mr. Gender? Who's the third? Who's the
McDonald's, the county, and
I 100% disagree with that because if that's the case, how come we're not putting it down on our gravel pits then?
Where all the traffic is.
Where all the traffic is. I 100% disagree with that. This is a business decision for them to put this particular business there. It's a business decision for Old McDonald's whether they want to put down dust abatement if they're causing the problem. There's options for them. They could put $1 in, like Mr. Anderson has said, to cover their cost. What do we have to gain as the county by putting dust abatement down there?
We can rebuild that road. We save $15,000 a year. It costs $3,500 worth of gravel. So we've still got $12,000 that we would be putting down every year. So if we can fix that, put a little bit of a dust abatement on it, in 1 year's time, we would have the dust abatement and that road rebuilt, and we'd have the other 2/3 of the cost covered by the dust abatement.
We're going to have to put gravel on a regular basis and run a grader up and down that road every year too as well. The maintenance on this road is, and that's what we have to take into account. The maintenance on this road is not going away. What we're going to have is we have now 2 miles of gravel that we are going to have to maintain. Well, right now, we don't run a grader up and down that 2 miles of road. So there is an inherent cost in everything that we do. And I think we have to be very astute with what we have for money anymore. This isn't a case of and we're not getting any more taxes from this, and unfortunately there isn't a huge tax increase on this one. So where's the income? I understand the output and I see some of the savings, but I'm seeing more of the cost inherited to this. Gravel on 2 miles of road and being graded every year or every 3 weeks now, or 4 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever, and more than likely it's going to be every 2 weeks or less because the complaints are going to come in because Mrs. Weekend Warrior comes running down there with her trailer, going to be bouncing all over the place. We're going to hear the complaints. Cherie's phone number is going to be like 855. It's going to be posted on the road. They're going to complain. And I'm sure that Kevin and Jean, great people, would be phoning and saying, hey, I pay a lot in taxes, and I agree they do. They're going to want some service for that.
Plus, dust abatement is just dust abatement, and
it'd be water.
It could be next year again, and it could be, that's the whole issue with dust abatement. It is a maintenance cost that we have to have set up how we're doing it off the get-go.
We've heard all the discussions on this.
Mr. Grove, I'd like to hear Wayne's motion again. Does it include the dust abatement?
My motion was that we proceed with
Can't hear anybody.
Can you put your mic right in front of you?
Sorry there, Dale. Can you hear me now? My motion
Now
was
I can
to move forward with the development permit, subject to the decision, and that'll be a council decision, to reinstate the road to 100%, to rip up the road back to gravel, I guess, and to the other conditions that are already set out.
No, they beat me.
I still got a question on that though, because we're talking about a business that he doesn't figure he's going to haul anything out of this year. And we're talking about a major piece of road and what it's going to do to our budget. Do we have to make the decision on this today? I know we've put it off before, but do we have to make the decision if this road right now is being tied to this permit? We understand it affects the landowner's farming capabilities with a 75% ban, but I think we just got this information last night or this morning, and I never looked at it because we were in council meeting. And I would like to be able to look at this so we come back to a council meeting, we have questions back to our public works and have answers on the table so that we can make that decision.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's directed towards administration.
No, and that's my feeling on it.
Can I interject for a second?
Is that you, Dale? Are you talking? Would you like to make a comment? Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry. I tried the *5 button, but it doesn't seem to work. Anyways, Rick Green's not handy there, is he?
No, he's not. He okay. Comes to our regular council meetings.
Okay, well, I think what I would suggest is grab him and come up and have a look at this road that he fixed last year. Like, he hasn't had a grader down that little stretch of road that he tore the pavement up on. He hasn't touched that thing for a year, and it's as solid as the day he put it there. So I don't know what he did. I don't know what it cost him. We don't know anything, but whatever he did stabilized that road. There's no dust. It's hard surface. We don't need a road man on it. It's excellent. It's just a little bit rough. So I'm not sure exactly what that cost, or if he used the light oil, or if he used something else that was different, but whatever he did is definitely holding.
We'll put that over to CAO Cassidy. I do believe that's because of the ban that's still on there.
So I know that Rick ripped that section up and he applied the light oil. We had some budget room to do that, and he applied the light oil. And I think the grader actually has been down it a couple times. But this spring, when I was up there talking to McDonald's, the sides of the roads are soft, and we need a grader on it again. It's potholing out, and it needs to be ripped up, light oil applied again, and then relayed. And it will do what all the rest of our dust controls do that we apply the light oil to, right? They pothole up, they get rough, and Dale says the road's hard and it's good, and that's his opinion as a ratepayer. The other opinion I got from his neighbors was that it's awful, it's rough. What did you do to the road? Put it back the way it was. So you've got that small section of road with two different opinions on it.
Well, I kind of like it that way because it slows those weekend warriors down.
I'm sure. I do have Rick Green on the phone now. Go ahead, Rick.
What's the subject matter?
Okay, so yeah, sorry, Dale, could you repeat the comment you wanted Rick's opinion on?
Yes, Rick, we ripped up that piece of road last year, and you laid it back down again, and then you put a light oil on it.
Yeah.
To me, that's a perfect road. Like, it's hard, it's not moving. You don't have to touch it with a grader, and it's if you're riding a Harley down it, you'd probably scare the shit out of yourself, but that's good.
Yeah, that particular stuff went down. If I recall, it was such a short piece to work with, and we were in a bit of a hurry because it went all to crap on us. So the surface texture, it needs to be touched up again this year because it's pitting a little bit and given some ride quality issues. But yeah, I mean, it holds up pretty good, especially after we get that road, the underside of that road that's been holding water underneath that old chip seal and being all snotty. Once we get that cleaned up and stabilized, yeah, the oil survives well in that environment.
So what did that cost roughly per lineal meter or foot or whatever?
Oh, see, something I'm not prepared for. We're around, the last report I gave of that was around 30,000 a mile, if that makes sense.
Did you add any gravel to that?
Yeah, we probably would have had to, yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's around $18 to $20 a lineal meter.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, that would stop the problem of the road falling apart. Second thing is dust is going to be a major issue. The east and west road that we've got running from McDonald's going over to the Lake Road, servicing Buffalo Sands, Scenic Sands, and all that other road. Holy cow, I was seeding over there by Paradise Shores a couple weeks ago. What a disaster that road was. Good God. You got people jogging up and down that gravel road, and you're going down there with a semi, and they're shaking their fist at you because they're going to get dusted out. Oh, it was a gong show. I don't know where everybody come from, but it was a gong show.
Is that on 40-4 over towards 56, or?
No, that's over to 835 from McDonald's straight east by Getty's.
Oh, that'll be 40-2. Okay, yeah.
Holy cow. What a bunch of idiots there is out there.
So, motion on the floor with this, bringing it back to council about ripping it up. But then we also have two who are asking if we could waylay it till after council discuss it and then bring it back. We bring it back to our motion mover.
You have to ask Jacinta's, because I think there is some rules with. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify with Mr. Nixon's motion. So the gravel would be turned back to gravel from 601 to Mr. Anderson's approach. The north would be left, north portion would remain. Is that?
Well, that's not on this. That can't be part of the development permit.
Well, that'd be a council decision, but I guess what I was saying, that this is subject to that, this development permit would be subject to that road being turned back to gravel. So that would be that would be a decision, I guess, we could make at next council meeting, which would be in a couple of weeks. So that's all I'm saying. So I don't know whether I can do that or not, but that's sort of what this development is contingent on. It's on whether that road can handle 100% weight. So if it can't, well, I guess Mr. Anderson will have to do something different. But that's why I made the motion that way.
Mr. Nyberg.
Well, I think that condition should be subject to the 75% ban being lifted. Whatever we decide, if council.
That's basically what
Exactly. That's how that should be read. Not that we turn it back to gravel or anything else, other than that the 100% ban is lifted. And I think that is part of it. The dust control is already in place, that it has to be mitigated along those ways somehow. So it's pretty straightforward. I think the question to Jacinta, though, is there anything stopping us from postponing this another month?
The applicant is willing to, we don't have any objection to bringing it back.
Pardon me, the applicant should consent if that's the intent, because there are processing timelines for development.
I was just going to say, what is the processing timeline?
Yes, we have some 40 days to process. So
we're already past that now then.
Yes, Mr. Anderson is in agreement to table it, and we can get to something in writing that he has no objections to it being tabled until the June meeting.
Mr. Nyberg, are you asking Mr. Anderson that?
The chair should do that.
Mr. Anderson, are you willing to wait till after our June 10th meeting? That was the question put forward to you.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. So, all of our heavy loads for my grain, my seed, my fertilizer, they're all in the field now. So, there's no rush. Let's just figure it out. Get it done right.
Dale, could you send Jacinta an email saying that you consent to us tabling this motion till our next MPC meeting, which will be
June 24th.
June 24th. That would be the best way for us to deal with this. And then we'll have a council meeting, decide what we're going to do with that road at that point in time. Is that a fair request?
Is that good with you, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, that's good with me.
Okay. I have Mr. Grover.
Are we taking the ban off right now? Today?
That's a council decision.
If he's not hauling any loads in and out of there, it's not a big thing till later.
Right.
So I'll make the motion that we table Mr. Nixon's motion till our next MPC.
Okay, everyone ready? All in favor? It's carried. Okay, Mr. Anderson, we'll see you at our next MPC meeting, June 20. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for everything, guys.
Thanks, Dale.
Have a good one.
Okay, now we'll move on to 6.2, DP 20019, lot 54, block 2, plan 0720960. Is your mic on?
Louder.
Oh, sorry, okay. So we have an application to install a recreational vehicle, a 2015 Avalanche 40 by 10, with an addition, a 24 by 16 covered deck at 3 Marina View Close, Ocean Sands Heights. The proposed use can be approved by the development officer. It is a discretionary use, so adjacent landowners are notified. The reason I felt compelled to bring it to our Municipal Planning Commission is because of the covered deck. I know we've had some issues with covered decks in that subdivision, and so I brought it forward for your review. And there are some pictures of the covered deck that is proposed on page, in your package, page, I can't find my page.
25,
25, sorry, yes. And Andrew has it on the screen. So, Mr. Edelman is on the line if you have any questions on this application.
It's already built.
No, this is just a sample. The lot is vacant at this time.
Where is this one from then?
It's just a sample of what he wants to put.
Okay.
It's a sample picture of somewhere else of what you'd like to do. Mr. Clark?
Does the applicant plan on leaving the trailer there all the time, or is there going to be periods of time when the trailer is moved away and that is, or that deck is sitting there just by itself?
I have asked, I have asked Mr. Edelman if he intended to leave the trailer there continuously, and he is planning on leaving it there permanently. Well, for 2 years. The permit is only valid for 2 years, renewable after 2 years, so we'd have to renew after 2 years. That's that. And if you want to just confirm our conversation.
Yes. Oh, sure. Sorry, I wasn't sure you're talking to me. Yeah, hi, everyone. Yes, the plan is to leave the trailer there permanently. I don't actually even have a truck that can move it easily. I have to basically borrow one, so I'm not, the plan is to leave it there, and I say permanently, obviously 2 years. The original plan was to build a cabin, and I'm still hopeful that that plan is still in place, so at some point I will be removing the RV to build something. Hello?
Yeah, sorry, we got you. We've just got and civ counselors.
Oh. Council's just reading the information. So according to our land use bylaw, it is allowed, but it is discretionary. And covered porches, it does not say in the land use bylaw.
The addition is limited to a ground level deck, and I put the definition in this report as well, where it does also include a, well, I can read you the definition here. A ground level deck is defined in the bylaw as a covered or uncovered and enclosed or unenclosed amenity area of concrete, brick, wood, or other material that is constructed at grade or attached to a dwelling. And the dwelling is in this condition. This dwelling unit is also includes recreational vehicles in our land use bylaw. So this would apply here.
Discussion? Mr. Gender.
I guess the only part to discretionary is just that it is not sitting on the ground. is supposed to be on the ground. That is why we were applying for discretionary use.
Ground level is 2 feet.
To 2 feet.
Yes, and it.
Portion is the roof, the covered part.
The definition does include enclosed, not an enclosed, rather a covered deck. Ground level. The definition I just referred to does include the covered portion of that deck. But as you know, we've had a lot of opposition to similar types of structures in that subdivision, so I brought it forward for consideration. And I should add to addition, landowners will be referred on this application because it is discretionary.
Question for administration. Are there many of these RVs in that residential area, or is it mostly houses?
I would say more RVs at this time, but it is becoming more, probably a 50% RVs and 50% dwellings. And there are similar structures as well in that subdivision. I think a lot of the issue that we had with a similar application was that the RV was removed and it was left basically an ancillary building or structure without the primary use of that property, which is the RV. So, and this applicant has confirmed that he will leave the RV there. So,
Nixon.
Have a motion
Nope, there's no motion out there.
where it goes.
Mr. Clark.
Back to administration, just when you look at that picture, like the photograph of it, and I know this is an example, but when you look at the example of the one that sits behind it, that is not what this side view of this looks like, is it?
are you referring to on the lot now? Because this is adjacent to the other structure that is there. Is that what, or are you referring to this picture?
Looking at the picture that we can see the back side of the trailer and the back side of the deck. But if you look to your right, you can see another trailer with a covered deck on it.
Oh, okay, enclosed deck.
Would this be would this, like when you look at it from the side, would this one be similar, or is this flush with the trailer?
I mean, if you could respond to that, I know you did mention that this was just something that you were using as a template, or.
Yeah, sorry, I don't quite understand, and I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to on that.
Okay, well,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Picture of the trailer that you put with like kind of a proposed deck on it. We can just see the back of it.
Yep.
Is it long? Is it basically longer than that trailer that's sitting on the lot? Because in the picture you see another one with an enclosed deck on it, and it overhangs the trailer by probably 8 to 12 feet or 14 feet. So it, like, to me, when you look at it from the side, it doesn't look very appealing. So
no. So I'm not sure which one you're looking at there. I don't have that picture in front of me, unfortunately. But no, the deck is square with the trailer, so it doesn't overhang the trailer on the back side or anything like that, or the front side.
Thank you. That was what I was asking.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I'll do it as yeah. Overhang was the issue that he was mentioning. Yeah.
Mr. Gender.
That I would look at as a friendly amendment that the trailer is not to be removed, because if he does remove it, then it could just leave a freestanding structure after we've given him a permit. So I would like to see that there is a condition saying that that trailer is not to be removed.
Mr. Nixon, that's Mr. Gender's amendment to your motion. Is it friendly?
I don't care to see the trailer removed and then the structure just standing by itself. Then they could call that as living quarters, just like the other chicken coop we have up there.
he needs to get it repaired, take it somewhere to have it repaired. How many times a year?
It's pretty complicated then. I guess my question, to the applicant would be, does he intend to leave the trailer there, or?
Answered the question, I'm sorry, Mr.
I missed that.
He said he doesn't have a truck that can move
He said it'll be there full time. He doesn't
full time.
not have a truck.
Because what I'd worry about is
I'm take that as friendly. I would just move on. I think we're beating this horse to death. We should move on and call the question.
Did you want to make your own amendment, or you're okay with that? Okay, so we have the motion on the floor as is. Everyone ready? All in favor? Opposed? Mr. Clark and Mr. Grover opposed. So, Mr. Alderman, your motion did pass.
Okay. Perfect,
The
thank you.
application passed.
With conditions.
With conditions. And Ms.
Right,
Ms. Donovan will get back to you.
Yeah, he has received a copy of the report, so the conditions haven't been changed from what was in the report.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to 6.3. So page 26, DP 20020, lot 35, block 2, plan 05-22242.
The applicant is proposing to relocate a new ready-to-move detached dwelling to 22 Sunset Lane, Buffalo Sands. 2 residential units and a common area are proposed to be encompassed under one roof line within the 1,160 square foot structure. The minimum floor area of a detached dwelling in the Buffalo Sands subdivision is 800 square feet. The applicant has indicated that an exterior door facing Sunset Lane will provide access to the common area. The proposed setbacks from the property boundaries comply with the minimum requirements for the district. Section 109.10 of the Land Use Bylaw stipulates that the Development Authority shall be satisfied that the design, finish, and appearance of a building are compatible with the amenities and character of existing development in the surrounding area. The proposed use may be interpreted as conducive to the definition of a duplex, with the exception of the common street access, as outlined in Section 8 of the county's Land Use Bylaw. A duplex means a building containing 2 dwelling units and each having a separate exterior entrance, but does not include a secondary suite. A duplex and/or secondary suite are not provided as permitted or discretionary uses within the Resort Residential Community Service Land Use Districts. So, Mr. Lobsinger and Ms. Kraft, I believe, are still on the line. So,
And they are now unmuted as
well. Yeah, Michael Lobsinger here.
Darcy Kraft here too.
Okay, welcome. Discussion on this. I think the main issue we are going to be dealing with here is that it's not even in our bylaw as of yet for a definition of something like this, which would be defined as a duplex.
So it's Michael here. If I could speak to you guys just about the idea here for a minute. Thank you all for your time. Darcy's my brother-in-law, and my sister and I own this lot together, and we share it with our families. So the idea was to create living spaces that we could each have a little bit of independence. It wouldn't really function as a duplex. It would function as one cohesive unit. The exterior facade would be set up so that it looks like a single cabin with one door facing Sunset Lane, and it would have one roof line with a shared loft throughout the cabin. We're even willing to have only one kitchen if that helps with get around the duplex, because we don't want to consider it a duplex. These won't be functioning as separate cabins. We won't be renting one side out. It's all one big family sharing a cabin. We're just trying to create some individual living spaces so that we can tolerate each other. So that's basically the comment. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So what you're saying is you're bringing two units in together, but you are making them one.
Yeah, so the cabin builder build these little units, and then they'll be connected by a covered deck with a shared loft, which will be insulated and heated. And then we're even thinking that the middle connection unit would be where the kitchen is, and that'll be insulated and heated and function as a pass-through between the two living spaces.
And both of those living spaces are connected to the common area in the middle by a door. So it's access.
So it functions something like when you see an atrium in a house. There'd be sort of an atrium connecting the two living spaces.
Okay, I have Mr. Nyberg.
So, Michael, I totally get not wanting to spend much time with your sister. That's pretty close, but so I guess my question here is we are talking about exterior design and how it looks. Realistically, we're not that concerned about what's on the inside as we are what it looks like from the outside. You are planning to have basically two peaked roofs with a sunroom in the middle of them. Is that what I'm seeing here? Or is this going to be one peaked roof over the top of both structures?
It will be one peaked roof. The peak will be in the middle of the structure. So from the outside, it's just one roof line.
And I wish I could see a little better design of what the outside of this building is going to take, because you've sent us a picture of that little cabin at the back, but I'm not picking up what you're putting down, buddy, as far as how this is going to look from the road, I guess. And that's what I think that this is being the stumbling block of what you're proposing right now. If we could see a profile from the road of what this design is going to look like, that would solve a lot of your problem, so that we can understand. So what you're basically saying, if I looked from the road, I would see one peaked roof, basically.
You'd see one peaked roof, one door in the middle, and a window on each side where the bedrooms are. Like you guys have the 3D rendering from the. So if we're looking at it from the lake's perspective, you can see those two windows, and the door would be in the middle, and then the peak would be in the middle transition. So the rear facade, the street side facade, will be one continuous wall.
Right on. And so the roof would go all the way out to the outside walls, or would it stop halfway and then you'd have a flat roof over your two?
No, it'd go all the way to the outside walls.
I'm okay with that. I have no problem with that. I'll make the motion that we accept this and go forward with it. It's just the way that we need to get a better concept of what you're doing with the outside, what it looks like from the exterior street side. That's all we're concerned about. What you put inside isn't as big a deal for us. So.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. I think that's what council wanted to know, was the clarification of the roof lines.
Board wanted to know. I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Mr. Gender.
In the definition of, say, a duplex, here they have all the names being under one title.
They are now, yes.
Like, I'm just kind of wondering, would it really classify under a duplex then?
Well, a duplex doesn't relate to the title. There could be multiple owners on a property. It's the actual use. So whether it's defined as a duplex or one dwelling with multiple units inside, like what they're proposing. And originally the applicant had proposed two roof lines and a third roof line over the common area. But yeah, in discussion with him, he did agree to make one roof line and put all the wall flush at the back so that it would appear as one unit, not two separate units combined with just a common area in the center. I know that doesn't answer your question as far as the duplex definition, but it's a duplex could have multiple owners. It doesn't really relate to the title as far as how many owners are on the title. It's just that they chose to purchase it as a joint, owners, but the use doesn't really apply to is registered on that title. And currently, we have a photo of the lot where I think Andrew had it earlier. There are 2 units on the title on that property now, which we are in that subdivision. There should only be 1 dwelling unit per lot. So this would, and we have that situation. It's quite common in Buffalo Sands where there are multiple units.
Questions? So we have a motion on the table to approve this. All in favor? Opposed? Opposed 1, Mr. Grover. So your permit application did pass with conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, moving on to 6.4, DP 20021, Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 0022982, Bowman, page 35. Do we have this one on the phone?
No, we have nobody else on the phone at the moment other than Rick is still on the line if we need him.
Hang him up. It work, yeah, exactly. Go look at my road.
It's day to day. So.
Okay.
And Rick.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So the applicant is proposing to operate a home business, a dog grooming, at 39374 Range Road 20-1. An unoccupied second detached dwelling on the subject property is proposed to be utilized for the business. Section 63 of the county's land use bylaw provides parameters pertaining to the operation of a home business. The property is located at the intersection of Township Road 39-4 and Range Road 20-1. So some of the conditions may feel are not applicable to this, but they are just all listed in our land use bylaw. So we can go through, and if you feel some of them aren't relevant, we can adjust them. There are limited hours, for example, and
Leave it as is.
Any discussion? No discussion. Mr. Stillberg just walked in. Were you here for the motion? Mr. Gender proposed the motion. We haven't voted on it yet. Approve it as is. So we'll call the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay. Now we're going on to the addition. So that's in our addition package. Okay, this one's DP 20022, Lot 8, Block 15, Plan 7820889. And it's on page 31 of our addition package.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So the applicant is proposing to install an 8-foot privacy fence along a 60-feet portion of the front yard of Lot 8, Block 2, Plan 7820889, 20 McNabb Street in Erskine. Pursuant to Section 60.3 of the county's land use bylaw, the maximum height of a fence is 6 feet. Section 60.4 provides a development authority with the discretion to approve a variance for a higher fence in order to enhance public safety, security, privacy, or buffering purposes. The subject property is located at the corner of Prospect Avenue and McNabb Street. Section 58.27 of the bylaw states that on a corner lot within any hamlet or multi-lot subdivision, no opaque fence, wall, shrub, tree, hedge, or any other structure more than 3 feet in height above the center line grades of the intersecting streets shall be permitted within the visibility triangular area created by the two property lines that form the corner of the property and a straight line connecting 2 points, 20 feet back along the two property lines measured from their intersection. So I've added that into the condition that the triangular area not, the 8-foot fence not be installed in that area, subject of course. And the diagram shows the area where he is proposing to put the 8-foot structure.
Residents coming into there be from Prospect Avenue, where they pull into the driveway. That's the front. Is that a frontage or?
Sorry, the access is off of McNabb Street.
For them, they consider that their side.
Are you referring to the
sign that they want to build?
Yeah, it was facing McNabb Street, and then that corner triangle where they he doesn't extend it right to that 20 feet back from the corner intersection there.
You've got one.
Mr. Nixon put forward the motion to have an 8-foot fence rather than a 3 that's allowed. Mr. Nyberg.
But 6 that's allowed.
Yeah, it's from 6 to 8 feet. The 3 feet is just for that triangle area by the intersection.
Traffic safety.
6 foot would be a permitted use.
Did they give you a reason why they want to go to 8 feet? Like it seems a little excessive. We've had this issue in Botha, and I'm not sure that this makes much sense to us. And do it in Erskine.
I would say
setting. I'm just saying. For Hamlet's.
Reason they gave us privacy. And
Sorry, Mr. Nixon, I can't go this way with you. I know you did. Don't look at me like that.
at the RV, and I don't know, I haven't, unfortunately, we just received this yesterday, but after we had been out to the site, but the trailer's probably sitting on high enough that the windows would still be, I don't. The reason was privacy is what the reason they wanted it higher.
Is 10 feet, is that privacy? Is 12 feet privacy?
Mr. Jenner?
I guess like if he's looking at privacy, he could grow trees. They could be any height. Fences grows faster than trees. I'm for it.
For the motion? Mr. Carr? Mr. Stilberg?
We get 8-foot windbreaks for cattle, and that would be pretty high in a residential area. Well, for windbreaks. So I would think perhaps it wouldn't enhance the area very well in a residential hamlet.
Property right there on the screen.
Image is
Got a bunch of trees.
from 2014, so.
Picture? Do you allow 6 foot? Mr. Grover?
But I'm with that. I think we should stick with the 6 foot. We're just starting a thing where there'll be 12 foot, 14 feet. If you want privacy, yeah, I'm in with seeding some trees, and you can get them right away, and you can have them that big, and nobody can see in there if that's what they want.
Andrew?
How tall is that head tree? Like in the picture. Last year it looked like it was gonna be lots of height. Better be about 5 foot hitch.
4 anyway.
We ready for the motion?
Well, Madam Chair, I would, instead of throwing these guys, just shutting them down completely. If they just wanted to put a 6-foot fence, do they need a permit? Okay. So I think as long as we convey that to them, that they can go ahead and put a 6-foot fence in.
He's aware of that. He just wanted it higher. Right?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Was there a fee with this?
There should have been a $300 fee, but he dropped it off in our mailbox yesterday, and he was supposed to contact me with payment, but he hasn't. So, yeah.
I'm sure he will. Maybe, I don't know. After he doesn't get it, probably not.
Probably not if it's denied. I doubt it.
Okay.
See how that works.
Ready for the motion?
Wayne's motion is to build a 8-foot fence.
Wayne's motion is to build the 8-foot fence.
Carry on.
Opposed. So it didn't pass and everyone was opposed.
Jacinta, just for my education, if he put a 2-foot berm and then built the fence on top of it, he could do that, could he not?
Had that happen already.
I didn't say that out loud. I'm just saying that there's somebody out there could possibly maybe let him know.
I'm glad you're not my neighbor.
I see that too. All that dirt. I haven't.
Okay. Making sure I got everything. Okay, so subdivision files. So 7.1, page 40 of the original package. Go back to that. Okay, it's on page 40. Subdivision 2020-05, Southwest 33, 39, 21, west of 4th.
So this quarter section you've seen it 3 times for subdivisions. The original application included the farm buildings, and then last year the subdivision application was to exclude the farm buildings. Now this application is to include them. So they want to do a boundary adjustment with the 2 Quonsets, and it's changed owners in the last few months, so the new owner wants to include those farm buildings.
Or somebody bringing forward a motion?
Which motion?
Motion to approve as is. We're bringing forward the motion too. Any other discussion?
Just if I could, Madam Chair, what was Mr. Rollage? He put some money or some stuff into Ducks Unlimited. This isn't that property, is it?
No, it isn't. It's Victor's on this property.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Rollage is owned. They bought the quarter section, and Levi Erickson has the acreage.
So are we ready for the motion? Oh, Mr. Gender.
This was subdivided out last year.
It was subdivided, and they built a new home on the property. And last year, the landowner wanted the buildings taken out of the acreage and left with the rest of the farmyard, the quarter section. So when that was sold this past spring, the new owner wanted the buildings in the acreage. So now that's what they're proposing, to put the buildings back into the acreage.
Contribution to the rural development fund over and above a certain amount. So the whole amount of this would be added on to them.
It doesn't go over. It's still part of there was no contribution to the rural development fund on this one.
Build of the farm unit then. Okay.
So we're ready to call the question? All in favor? It's carried. Okay, Okay, now on page 45.
So is that gonna go into, does that become all residential property now? Acreage?
The previous application, like the
9 acres is gonna be all agriculture?
don't rezone for the first, we haven't rezoned unless they're doing a multi-lot subdivision.
That's exactly what I was
Yeah.
saying, they'll be a lot more expensive than the way it was before. Well, that's what I was just under, he would have had it as a quarter section, he would have had that exemption. Now, as a quarter section, it's not. So.
He didn't own, previous owner had subdivided it.
Right, but with a quarter section with 2 Quonsets on it, probably was $500 worth of taxes. Now this is going to add probably $1,500 to the acreage tax because there's an offset with the farm taxes. It's all good.
Can I just back for a second? I did hesitate on putting a condition that they obtain a safety code officer's report for the private chute system because of the previous application, but I added in because it's still a requirement, so they will have to provide a new report. On the last report indicated it was a holding tank, but we just want to ensure that it didn't get converted to another type of system.
Now we'll move on to subdivision 2020-06, Southwest 4, 3820, west of the 4, Volker, page 45.
But I have it muted. I can unmute it.
That's okay.
Muted.
So this application, we did meet with the landowner because as you can, if you bring up the aerial, you'll see that there is a road plan that had been registered, which deviated from the actual road surface that was developed. The old road plan had been canceled back in around 2000 and put back with the quarter section, but the road, 20-4, I believe it was on private land. So we have reached an agreement to obtain the land and register this as a road plan. And there is a second parcel out of that quarter section that was taken out in 2009, I believe the plan number was. So they are required to provide cash in lieu of MR. And it's just a bare parcel, 6 acres. The approach may need some upgrades. We were there yesterday, and it hasn't been used, so that needs some gravel, or because it's just seeded over right now. And it does come in off of 2 other counties' road allowance there. So, and they will also, an agreement that was reached was the land dedication, which doesn't show it on this map, but there's on Township Road 380. We'll be taking 16 feet along the south boundary of the quarter section on both sides of that 9 or 10 acre parcel. So that cost will be absorbed by the county for that survey to get this road plan registered, and as well the cost to register that road plan 20-4 within the road allowance. So that was the agreement that was reached, just to pay for the survey costs. Applicant is still responsible for the cost of the survey for the acreage.
Forward, this cleans up a issue that's been burning around there for a while, so this is awesome. This is how development should work. It's perfect.
So like we're going to be taking additional along the Range Road 20-4. But say like if we wish to come in there and build that road wider where it is existing now, I would like to be able to see that additional be put onto that existing road now. But in time, say like if we decide, as a county decides that we are gonna put that road straight through, that is transferable over to where the legal is.
Surface is proposed to be 30 meters wide. That is what we will take for the land dedication, additional land, so that it's a 30-meter center on the road. And Rick, yeah, it's 100-foot right over. And Rick can speak to it if he has any other comments.
There.
There he is. Rick, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, 30 meters. I know there's some hills and sloughs there and whatnot, that if we did decide to do some upgrades, probably involve some back sloping, but 30 meters is sort of our standard of what we're trying to take on most local roads, has been for quite some time. Always nice to get more, but you'll probably still be in the back sloping even if you took a little bit more, where the hills or where the sloughs are regardless. So 30 meters is our fairly normal right of way going forward right now.
I just want to clarify. So on right now the road at 20-4, there's a 30-meter right of way.
We don't own that section.
Right now, there's no right of way.
Okay, so we're getting double. Okay, so thank you. Yeah, done.
We're getting a road that we're maintaining that we don't own, so
Okay, great.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Mr. Nyberg.
We can actually grade our own roads.
Mr. Volker's on the phone.
Roadblocks.
Okay.
It's on the phone.
I didn't know if he was there. Okay, new business. Page 51. This is the RA 20027, Northeast 33616, by Mark Colony.
Sorry. Just a referral from NRCB for to increase the size of their hog, or add another hog lagoon.
This is just for information, right?
Yes. I mean, we can provide comments on the first page. If they've asked some specific questions, which we generally respond to, is whether it applies, it's consistent with our MDP. Is there any documents, like if we have IDPs in that area, which we don't, the zoning, and whether the application needs to.
When we do end up having to pay for that, but
I am. I was just texting him, letting him know I would let him stay unmuted if he would manage his own mute, but quick enough.
Sorry, you were on the third question, the land zoning.
Yeah, we always answer those questions, whether it complies with our MDP, and if it meets the setbacks, and we specify all that in our response.
Any questions or any comments about this? Mr. Stolberg.
Yeah, I see they're not increasing their hog numbers, they're just adding the sewer or the lagoon cell, so I would make a motion just to accept this as information.
All in favor? Opposed? Clark and Grover. The next one, RA 20029, Southwest 7, 3917. That's the fourth Lone Pine Literite Brethren. 73, page 73.
This is just stage one of their application. They do part one, just obtaining the information. So they want to construct a liquid manure storage. Livestock numbers are not increasing. But it's not complete until we get the stage part 2 of that application.
Just a typo on there on page 75 under ducks. We have 9,000 total, permitted number 900. Is that error? Is that a oops?
It's an extra 0.
Hey, we should get some clarification on that.
Oh, they were wild.
They haven't added a.
It says 0 increase.
So yeah.
Sure, I move that be received for information. Yes, with the correction, with the 1 0 knocked off. Or added, I don't know which one it is.
Isn't NRC?
Or the other, yeah.
People, if they got to put 9,000 more ducks in it.
Mark?
Just a question on it is they're not increasing anything. We want to build storage lagoon for manure as we're over capacity for approximately 1 million to 1.5 million gallons. Is the NRCB's calculation off that far, I wonder, on original lagoons, or why would they be that much over on their storage? Like, that's the only part that bothers me about the intensive livestock is that they approve it, they permit it, they approve it, but then in a condition like this, we don't even get an explanation on why they have to build something bigger. And that was the same as the last one. They're building something bigger. Why? And it does affect their.
My guess is the farming practices changed. They're probably still having 900 ducks, but they're probably doing it in a 6-week period instead of an 8-week period. That would be my guess, and I'm just speculating.
Could be. It could be.
That'd be my guess.
I don't like the way these permits.
I agree with you 100%, but
against it, I just don't like.
I don't why they send it to us, because we can't do squat about it anyway.
It's already passed.
Mr. Gender.
The only speculation I make on it is they sometimes, if they've only got it for once a year pumping out, that maybe they have to work on it twice a year. But I'm speculating. But no, they should come back for a reason saying, okay, this is why they're looking at it. They want to pump out twice a year because the volume isn't there.
They don't care about us because we have nothing to say here.
And to the neighbors in the area, like it just is.
Unless it's beside a property that we have deemed in an area that is not zoned for it, that's basically the only reason we could say anything. Other than that, get out your rubber stamps, because that's all we can do. Yeah, that's true.
And it can be the same as every time there's one colony spreads manure and we get complaints, and you tell them to phone the NRCB, and it goes nowhere.
Actually, there is another number for that. I'll get you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gender.
Alberta Environment has a little bit more say on that.
Can you imagine back in the time of when Getty had his house up there, if they'd have wanted to put a farrow or finishing barn up there, how fast it would have gone through?
So who put forward the motion? Okay. I forgot who put forward the motion.
Take the heat today.
I forgot who it was. Okay, so we have a motion on the table to accept for information. All in favor? Opposed? Clark and Grover.
I think we get enough information for what we do. It's actually, at the end of the day, it's in our county.
Okay, new business. 8.1, it's on page 51.
Well, that's what we just did.
No, we just did that. 8.3, DP 20017, Northwest 314217. Now, is that one? Which one's that?
Addition, yes.
On the addition package? Okay.
Going to explain the situation here with that application.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. So this application come in for an ancillary building in an agricultural district, which is a permitted use. But when I went up to do the site inspection, I noted that they're using an undeveloped road allowance to gain access to where they want to put this ancillary building. And I know in the past that that's been an issue because the road wasn't built up to standard. So I brought it to Rick's attention to try to get some direction from him what the best way forward was. And when he looked at this, where it's a forced road allowance that literally goes nowhere. He thought maybe the county would be better served if we just closed that road allowance and gave the property back to the landowner, because they're the landowner to the east, so we're not restricting access to anybody. And it looks like that road allowance was probably forced through there prior to the highway being built through, because it's right on the line between us and Camrose County, and you can see that the property to the north, the road doesn't go anywhere, and there's just a quarter section where they do farming. So thought I should bring it forward to try to get some direction from MPC what their thoughts were on this, or should we require them to the road up to a standard, or just approve it as is.
Page 36.
Page 36 of the additions package. Yeah.
You turn off the highway, right there, you literally have enough room that you can pull in off the highway, and they have a fence built that blocks access there. It's quite a steep hill. You can't really tell from the aerial photo, but it's quite a hill up in there, and it plateaus up at the top where they want to put the building. There's an RV that's up there right now, it's kind of like a recreation spot where they go for the weekend and kind of thing. So that's kind of what the layout looks like there, I guess.
Where are they applying for an application?
They want to put an ancillary building up there on skids, like just a shed on skids.
Why are they applying for application? But typically we don't, if you want to put something on skids on an agricultural property, you don't have to. So but what I'm saying is it's a skid, like.
It's not for farming use. She didn't specifically say that it was going to be a farming use. They just want to use it for storage. So that's when it becomes an ancillary building, not farming. So they would technically need a permit for it.
It causes all kinds of.
Yeah, there's also potential that it could be used as a cabin, because and that's where.
And they have kids going to school.
If it's be used as a storage unit, no permit. If it's going to be used as a cabin, then they're going to have to come to a permit, and then we're going to have to deal with this. But if they're a good corporate citizen, like you say, they will tell us this is for a cabin, and then we can tax them for it. If it's going to be for storage of their junk, they don't need a permit. Well, we won't see we won't see a road closed because you're going to have to get ministerial approval, and it's going to be 2 years. Okay, yeah. A good counselor would have straightened this out before it came to us. Who is the counselor up there, anyways? It's probably Jack, is it?
Road allowance to skate it, yeah. An ancillary building larger than 192 still requires a permit unless you're using it for farming. And in this situation, they indicated that the structure was larger. What was the size of it?
12 by 16, I believe. I don't have it right. Yeah.
Just to note on this file, if you may, Madam Chairman.
What's that?
Can note. In Camrose County, so they're right on the border to us. In Camrose County, so this is the road allowance we're talking about potentially closing. It's connecting the highway road allowance to what is an undeveloped township road allowance that exists entirely within Camrose County. And then effectively dead ends, right? There's no forest road through the parcel to the north in Camrose County.
We're going to have to refer this to Camrose County too as well. for a shed.
No, it's not in, sorry, it's not in our IDP referral area, so,
Orders them though.
but we don't have an
We'd
IDP.
send them a letter. We don't have to refer it to them, but we'd send them a letter that it's going forward because they're an affected landowner.
It's not discretionary use. The reason we brought it forward was because of the closure of the road. Whether we want to bring that forward to a council meeting, I know we can't make the decision here, but we just thought if you could give us direction as to whether we should proceed with that or just let it remain as it is, and then
Madam Chair, I say we let it remain as it is. If it becomes a problem and we need to fix something, we can do it. And I'm not looking to fix problems that aren't there already.
We need a motion.
Yeah, that motion that we let it go as it is and we do the permit, don't change anything. As long as they don't build it on the road allowance, I'm fine. Oh, no, they could build it on the road allowance because it's on skids and they can move it.
Your motion is not to close the road allowance, right? That's what the motion says, right?
For information is all this is.
I'm not gonna vote for anything where they close them, because we've already already had to buy a road back.
No, and his too.
Had the stupid thing to start out with.
My area, Dave, we do it through development permits.
We'll go there.
Oh, yeah, right.
Me?
Oh. It's kind of like the hoodoos, the coolies up there.
It's a
Beautiful spot. Like they really have a nice view up there.
ways. But I'm not familiar with the name at all.
They're major landowners, so you better get to know them.
Hagen, her daughter is the one who's applying for it. It's still in the mother's name, but
All right, so we got a motion on the floor to receive as information though.
Country up in there, I'll tell you.
All in favor? It's carried. Okay, now we got the Big Valley one. Is that the one? I haven't been crossing them off, so.
right here.
9.1 Big Valley MDP.
Valley Municipal Development Plan, yeah. They're having a public hearing on June 25th. And if you have any comments you want me to submit, I mean, we don't need to have this for today, but if you have a chance to go through and see anything.
It's held on Thursday, June 25th at 1 o'clock.
25th, isn't it?
When do we have to have comments in by?
They've given us a date. We could present at the public hearing or
Later than 12 p.m. June 22nd, right?
Madam Chair,
the 22nd.
if I could through to administration, is this at the point that we should be looking at just on page 24, transportation? Is this something that we should be commenting to them about their emergency access and their access to the roads? I.e. there's a bridge issue and then there's a new road that went up by their blue church that should be cost effective and serve diverse needs and capabilities of their citizens. They need to do this. Just that we are looking for some money. Cost share? I don't know. Is this the point where we do that? When do we send them the notice that we want some money? Yeah.
And what about the north, just going straight west out of town? How much money did we spend on that?
A lot.
Money? We have, and from the Blue Church to Big Valley, how many residents? Okay, there might be 3 residents, but 3 people, but there's only 1 residence.
Identifying routes and Dave's great because of the bridge issue. We should probably, mention it. They're probably going to come back and say, fix it, but it's not our bridge.
Just, I think it's at some point we need to let them know what we're thinking. We can all sit here and talk about it, but if we only talk within our own echo chamber, they'll never hear us. So I think it's just important that this, I just don't know when the best time to talk about it is.
Wait, so,
I'm a businessman.
oh, James, are you putting a motion forward for a letter? Or?
And then we send, we instruct administration to send a letter just to let them, or help them recognize the issues of routes in and out that are of concern to the county. One being the bridge, one being the Blue Church Road, and then any other that administration sees as an issue of concern. Yeah, but this gives us, this is so that they don't go, well, you never told us when we did this.
That bridge, we're not fixing that anyhow. It's not our road.
So does our fire department know that they can't go in as a secondary access there? Go put a pair of shorts on and get out there. They'll never travel that road again. You can't do that on Zoom.
Twice now. Now you're insulting me.
I said you can't do that on Zoom, Dave.
We'll probably not.
Nobody will travel that road again.
Right, so we ready for the motion? Favor? It's carried. So everyone carried the motion.
Everyone carried?
Yep. Everyone carried.
Sorry. Kind of left that.
Now we're on to the draft mooring disturbance package.
Yeah.
That one's long. Jacinta will give us the whole gist of it. So,
Knocking their boats when they don't have permission to be on there, or what?
our Buffalo Lake management team meeting, we've talked about this quite a few times. And basically, the government is saying that they don't have enough people to man this. So they want the municipalities to man this because the government above wrote this policy that no one can man having thousands of applications for all these docks. So it is getting now down. Well, the disturbance is to get it down to the municipality level, and so now the municipalities are going to have to handle all of these applications.
don't have to do this. Yeah, I know, but so what happens if we don't?
I think if it doesn't pass, then those stringent rules that are in there, basically no one's going to be able to get a boat in the lake.
Exactly, right? And nothing's going to change.
One or the other.
They haven't done anything for the last 10 years, and it seems to have worked pretty good the last 10 years. Just don't bring your boat on the shore. That's all we care.
But what they're really wanting, or is coming from the government up top, is communal docking. They don't want individual ones. So they're really, really trying to push for communal docking.
That would fall back to us on development permits, though, wouldn't it, if we had something like with Paradise Shores in the past? And that's the type of dock we'd have to insist on? Would that be?
Yeah, it would have to be. Yeah.
And what upsets me about the minute they get the message out that somebody gets into a dispute with, say, a landowner who has a beachside property, and that person doesn't want to let them park their boat out there because he's got a backlot, and so they get into a fight. Well, who's in charge of this? Oh, the municipality. And we're spending all our time on the phone. And let's face it, every time there's an issue at the lake, it's usually on a weekend. It's just like the fishing shop. I mean, you get all the phone calls on Saturday and Sunday. I don't want to have any. I don't want to have any. They don't have
So, do you want to bring it forward to the next MPC, or do you want to have a letter sent now, or?
Yeah, and this is the thing. They had a webinar with the summer villages, and the only reason that I was aware of this was Lauren at White Sands forwarded to me. So, and then they wanted an answer that day if we had any comments. So we really haven't been. I don't know what their communication is and how they.
I was just waiting to get her.
Oh yeah, we really missed the deadline, but we just received it on the 25th, which is Monday, just past Monday. So I don't know if they're really too concerned about our comments. They're just doing whatever they.
It's this way, council will have a chance to review it.
Yeah.
Bring back your recommendation.
Can't have public consultation when their COVID's on anyways.
Yeah, Mr. Nyberg.
So I'd like to make the motion that we send a letter to Minister Jason Nixon, Alberta Environment, ask him when he's having his webinar for us. Because, I mean...
Yeah, I think we need to be made aware of, if we're responsible for it, they should at least be communicating.
Right now, we're not, at the current rate, we have no input on this, so we need to have that conversation.
Mr. Grover?
What's that? Oh, no, I think if they had a webinar for the summer villages, number one, we should have been invited, but I'm not going to get snotty about it. I'm just going to say, well, when is ours? Because we're waiting. We haven't been notified. Yes, I'm being a little bit facetious, but I think that's how it has to be written, because I'm not sure they're picking up what we're putting down. Seems to be the theme of the day. The ministers aren't getting it.
Grover.
Yeah, I'm a guy. I use that lake. We already have money. We put money in when Ocean Sounds went and made their boat launch. We own part. We put money into it. So why would we not be able to use it? And another thing is, when you go to park that boat, as long as you have permission from the guy where you're parking, then what difference does it make? I don't understand the whole thing.
Whoever's clicking the pen, it's picking up on my mic back here.
So I don't know. They make all these decisions, and then they just get a hold of the summer villages. I'm sort of in favor of that too. Maybe they should have one for the counties and the county of Lacombe and Kamloops and all the rest of them that actually own the majority of the land around there. Just a thought.
Jurisdiction do we have on the water if they want to park a boat
on it.
Victoria too, I think there's some. All that navigable waters through your area. You should be able to easily get down there from the Hudson Bay.
She's tough paddling out in the middle of Saskatchewan there.
They'll get to North Saskatchewan. It flows north, doesn't it? Or south?
No, it flows east-west.
Okay, so we're sending a letter. We need a motion. We have that motion, so we need to vote on it to send a letter. All in favor? It's carried. So we'll bring this back to our next MPC meeting.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that pen away from you if you can't stop playing with it. That's what your mom said. I'd end up with glasses.
We need a motion to go in camera.
True story. Oh,
Yes?
Give you that motion in camera.
All in favor? It's carried.